HeroesHype Live. My name is Halorin. It's my pleasure to be joined by maybe Buzz and the man himself, Aether, Captain Ireland, no less. These two jokesters. We just did a pre-show getting the sound levels and everything, and these guys are doing Power Rangers maneuvers and everything else. So if they transform,
they're like baseball. They're like baseball things. You know what I mean? Where like someone comes up and you're like,
I want him to steal second. That's what I'm telling him to do.
Oh, slow down.
Oh, wait.
HeroesHype Live indeed.
Time out.
But after 5 incredible weeks of North American amateur action, it's come down to this. Tonight will be the finals of HeroesHype Temple Storm Series 2. 8 teams who have proved themselves week after week. They're the top 8 standing. One of these teams will be coming away with the lion's share of an incredible prize pool generated by our lovely community. There's a lot on the line. Like, I'm hyped.
It's extremely hype. It's so fun, like watching all of the weeks and then building up to this like one event where everybody like gives it their all and shows up. And like, I can't imagine like the practice that everybody put in this week. So I'm really excited to watch all the games today.
Yeah, this is where all the hard work shows up, right? Everything that you've been doing, this whole season that we've been playing, all the practicing, all the blood, sweat, and tears that everyone has put in to wanting to get better. This is where you prove it, right here in the finals, the top 8. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool about this is that it has taken over the course of weeks. And like you said, Aether, these guys practice on a consistent basis. This is a passion and a dream for them. So that to have these amateur stages like HeroesHype Temple Storm Series, it's very important to them. We actually had a chance to speak with a handful of the captains. We got some clips from interviews. The HeroesHype channel or the Twitter page posted out some links on YouTube with some interviews that I was able to do, and some writers asked some questions behind the scenes as well. You can get the full transcripts over on HeroesHype.com. The writing staff has done an amazing job getting tons of content out there for you guys to enjoy. But yeah, what was really cool about doing those interviews is that I feel like it humanized the players in a way that, like, you know, they're obviously human beings, but you know,
are we sure?
Yeah, as far as
can we actually confirm that? I mean, you only talked
a
to
robot,
one.
I think.
Oh yeah, well.
She said it. She said it. Okay.
The NA drama never stops. But it's just like, I don't know. It was just cool to get into the heads of the captains because, you know, when we watch these games, it's just 10 players going at it, playing some incredible games of Heroes of the Storm. But as far as the emotional element of rallying a team, overcoming obstacles, roster changes, things like that, bringing new people on, it's a journey. And it was just really cool to see that at a deeper level. And I think it just kind of raised the stakes for me personally, for sure.
Yeah, you get to see all the personal investment that they all have, you know?
Yeah, and so I was pretty sad, actually, that TQ had to drop out of the tournament. That's something that happened today. This number 2 seed TQ had to drop out because I really loved the interview that was done with them, just like how he was talking about how it takes months. It took months and months of time to get a team. It started with one person. And then, you know, he tried to do tryouts. He was looking in Discords, which I think is a struggle that a lot of amateur players go through. I know, like, managing a team, checking Discord, see who's looking for a team, trying to schedule tryouts, and then, like, the people don't show up. And, you know, you have this block of time now where you want to get this team together and it's not happening. And just the struggle and how it takes a really, really long time. And I think that it can get discouraging for players. I know that a lot of players get discouraged with the grind, the amateur grind. So being able to see it like come to fruition, and over the time you get this team of players that you have cohesion with and or have synergy with, and you have built this team together. And yeah, to watch them get to this point now where they can show everyone what they have, it's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that if you're looking to join the amateur scene or looking to go pro or whatever, you know, his interview really shows the kind of stepping stones that you have to go through, right? Everybody's like, oh, you know, I'll just show up in Hero League, and then this pro team's going to be like, that guy's pretty good, we should get... No, that's not how that works, right? This game is complete. That's not how that works. You got to go out there You got to put all the work in. And I mean, it is not easy. It is not like you got to sit down for like a year or so. You know, he's been doing this, 3 months, and he just now put together a roster that is actually looking pretty good. And funny enough, I actually remember the first time hearing about TQ a couple of months ago was, I was talking to some of the middle of the pack amateur teams, and it was like, how's your team going? They're like, oh, we've been losing scrims, and everybody's like really upset. And it's like, well, why are you guys losing? Like, who are you guys losing to? Like these names that everybody knows. And it's like, no, this roster TQ, I've never heard of any of these guys. And man, like everybody's getting all upset. And then like I was like, well, I don't know who they are. And then they started showing up and all these things, and I was like, man, this is like a legit, pretty good amateur team, and they're gonna keep moving. Like, hopefully, they're gonna keep improving and keep working on it. But definitely read that interview if you need to know what steps that it's gonna take, and if you've ever hit like a wall and you're like, well, I don't know what step to go with. I can't form my team. My team's leaving. Yada yada. Discord's not working. The all the forums that I go to aren't working. Read the kind of tips that he lays out for everybody else. It's definitely good to see the people that have kind of come before you and learn from them, right?
I'd agree 100%. I mean, in a lot of ways, that team in particular is the blueprint of how you get into the amateur scene. I think a lot of teams saw HGC Phase 1. You have that weekly stage where these teams show up to have these incredible games. It's inspiring. It's not like last year where, there's like a summer regional that you're playing for. It's like one big event and then you don't have anything going on for another month. Like, it's like football. Like, you see these teams show up every week. There's standings involved and stuff. And then it all culminates into the midseason brawl, which I think was some of the best Heroes of the Storm we've ever seen, period, at the professional level. Mm-hmm. So these teams came away from that and they were like, we can do that. Like, we want to do that too. So I think these teams like learned a lot from HGC. Even between Series 1 and Series 2 of HeroesHype Tempo Storm, the level of play has jumped up considerably. Mm-hmm. And it was just really cool to hear TQ's story about how they formed, some of the struggles and trials that they went through. And I know they would have, if they could have been in the finals tonight, they would have for sure been there because they put in no small amount of effort to get here.
Right. And they actually, and then so the team that'll be taking their place is actually Bamboozled. And I had to think about it because I said it wrong earlier. And so it's kind of shifted the bamboozled.
We were memeing it up pretty hard.
Yeah, I put the wrong emphasis, the wrong syllable.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bracket, if you looked at the bracket earlier the other day, it's been updated, so you should definitely go and check that out again.
Yeah, so if you're a team playing, definitely want to go look at that because it's changed for everybody. So
you may have different strats, and you may be going up against someone that you didn't think that you were going to go up against. Like a team that was only really around in the last 2 weeks and that like finished really well, and I think everyone imagines is going to have a pretty good showing tonight is Imported Support.
Oh yeah, I mean, Imported Support is a team. They are no strangers to high-level Heroes of the Storm play, to say the very least. Unless you guys have an objection, I think we could just go down the list of the matchups that we have and just kind of talk about.
Yeah, we can go ahead. Yeah. I mean, anyone who hasn't seen the bracket, someone should probably link it in chat, honestly.
Yeah, I can do that actually. Okay. It's in the thing.
Yeah, ooh.
So we got 8 teams in the finals. The first seed in AFC will be duking it out. Firm Handshake versus Bamboozled. Firm Handshake. I had a chance to speak with their captain in one of the interviews, and he was just one of the most humble guys I think I may have ever met. My pizza just showed up, so that's cool. But so yeah, I mean, this is one of those hardworking teams that earned their spot to just climb the ranks in the amateur scene, show up week after week, have these big performances, get those points at the end of the night, and make it to the finals. Bamboozled, they were in the tiebreaker to get into the finals. They are also a team that's been around and showed up consistently throughout HeroesHype Tempo Storm series. So I'm sure they're thankful for the opportunity to be able to get into the finals. I know it meant a lot to specifically Alathanis on that team, a friend of mine. But they're going to have their hands full going up against Firm Handshake. Aether, have you had a chance to see these guys in action a lot?
I haven't been able to see Bamboozled. get in too many games, but I've definitely had plenty of time watching from Handshake. So if hopefully them not winning the tiebreaker right to get into it didn't discourage them enough, and I hope they definitely kept up their practice because they're gonna need it for tonight coming into this first round.
Definitely. I mean, someone on Firm Handshake that recently joined their team, Grizz. We all know him. He's who?
What?
He's normally here on HeroesHype Live, but he made the decision, and ultimately I definitely agree with it, to make sure he's practicing, getting ready with his team to show up and do the best job that they possibly can in the finals tonight. I think it's really cool to see someone that that streams quite a bit. Grizz is an active streamer in the hero scene. He's here on HeroesHype Live, so you hear his insight and perspective, and it's like, all right, like that's it's cool to get your insight. Now, like, I don't know, it's just cool to see a different angle. You see these guys talk about the game so much, and then now he goes in and demonstrates what he can do. He's a very strong tank player, and from what I've gathered, he's fit into that team like a glove, and they've definitely improved since then.
I mean, I hope so.
You got to go up, forward, not back, right? Always forward, never back.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
he plays the off lane too, and that like there's a lot of times that you'll see him in the solo lane when he's playing with Firm Handshake too, which is something that is different for me. I know that Grizz has like personally gone through like a lot of iterations of what his position is in HOTS. Like he started out as like a ranged assassin, and then he went to warrior, and like watching him in that off lane, like especially against Arthalon, like Grizz holds himself pretty well against Arthalon in the solo lane sometimes.
really?
So yeah,
I mean,
so
they definitely had a couple of really hard showings against Hold It Down, and I mean, there's definitely a lot of questions here, and Firm Handshake hasn't looked the best in the past ever since they lost Lex Luthor, and I mean, Grizz is a fine replacement for it, but I mean, Lex Luthor is a previous top 8 player. I mean, this guy's a previous pro range player. Who knows what he really brought to that team? If it was if drafting was his, if shot calling was his, if like team mentality. Because I know that like Firm Handshake was a lot of his friends, and so Grizz, you say
his
that
brother
he fits.
too.
Oh yeah, his brother was playing. Yeah, so like
wow.
losing that synergy, who knows? That could be as good as Grizz is as a player, losing those aspects of it, right? Not just the mechanical play and just the knowledge, right? You could lose so much more than that not having somebody like Lex Luthor, which could be a problem.
We actually have a clip from the interview that we did. I'm gonna pull that up right meow, because I'm good at this and I know what I'm doing. Should be able to do this without too much of a. And from the games that I've been able to see. Hang on. All right, I think I got it. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna. This is a part of the interview that I did with Vestige from Handshake. How's it going, Vestige? Congratulations on making it into the finals for HeroesHype Tempo Storm Series 2. You guys are in first place. How does that feel?
It feels really good. We've worked pretty hard in order to try and do really well so far in HeroesHype, and I'm glad it's paid off, and I'm glad it's showing in the rankings.
One thing that I think is really cool about your team is like I consider you guys to be the workhorses of HeroesHype Tempo Storm series. While we haven't been able to speak with you at the end of the night during the season, you've shown up almost every week, and you're always like in the top 3 or 4, and that's what's led to you guys being in first place, just consistently ranking high each week. In that, I think you guys are dark horses in a lot of ways because we haven't had a chance to interview you, so some players or some people that watch each week may not know exactly who you guys are. So would you like to give an introduction to those viewers that may not know who you guys are, like how long you've been together as a team? What do you feel some of your strengths are?
Yeah, for sure. So we're Team Firm Handshake. It's not the most creative name in the world, but we do love it. We've been a team for a couple of months now, though. When I say a team, I mean mostly like the core roster. So like D-Steve's Necro and I have been playing for months. Heyo was a more recent addition. He is our support player. He's an excellent player, and he does a very good job, and he fits in really well. We've also had a very recent roster change. We wound up picking up Grizz on our roster now, since Lex Luthor sadly had to leave us. So essentially, lots of our strength, we believe, falls in our team fighting. We tend to fall a little bit short when it comes to macro play, we've kind of discovered. So we're rather happy to try and just take team fights whenever we can. And we usually approach games in that sense. We try to play to our strengths, and we try to play to get those team fights. And it doesn't always happen, but when it does, we usually get positive results, which is good.
And from the games that I've been able to see of you guys, I would definitely agree that the team fighting tends to be one of your strongest suits. So you've had the core 3-person part of the roster, and you said Heyo came on a short time afterwards. Grizz is now the latest addition to your team. I think there's always an interesting period of transition when a new player joins a roster, because there's something of a set chemistry with the existing players, and then there's this new element, and you want to try to bring in their ideas, and they also want to try to in turn like meet you guys halfway and then just become part of the team. How has Grizz fit in so far, and do you think you guys in this short amount of time will be ready for the finals?
So Grizz has fit in really nicely, actually, and the point you brought up about like having that core group and that kind of relationship and chemistry already set up has, I think, helped get Grizz onto a similar page as us. But it also really helps that Heyo and Grizz are actually really rather close. They've been playing with each other for a while. They know each other quite well, so there is that connection that is there already for them. So it's kind of right now just trying to make it all blend together, and it can be. It so far it's going really well, but we'll have to see how it pans out, particularly in tournaments, because it does add a different level of stress and also like desire in order to perform well and at the level we want to. So we'll have to see how well it goes, but so far it's definitely looking very solid.
Awesome. HeroesHype and now HeroesHype Tempo Storm Series has been a long-standing tradition in the amateur scene. HeroesHype has been around since the alpha days at the very beginning. How would it feel to come away the winners of Series 2, and what do you think that would mean for yourself as far as your Heroes career goes?
Coming away being the winners of Series 2 would be just so huge, I feel, for us. I know personally that it would probably be the biggest victory in my amateur career thus far. And HeroesHype is such an amazing tournament, and it does have very good quality of play, and it always is competitive, and it always makes you work for the reward, which makes it all the better. And definitely as a team, it would give us the confidence boost that we need, because right now the amateur scene is rather condensed with quite a few teams that seem to be neck and neck in terms of ranking. And so if we get that confidence boost, it might just be enough to boost us over the top.
Speaking of that, I do think, especially going into phase 2 of HTC in the open division, that the North American scene is pretty competitive as far as high quality teams. What do you guys say to yourselves when you go against these teams to keep yourselves focused and make sure you guys are playing your best game possible?
It really does depend on our mentality going into the day. Usually we are very sharp and focused, and so there's not very much that needs to be said. But sometimes when we face, for example, a team like Hold It Down, which is in the amateur scene but has some very big names on it, we take a moment to remind ourselves that, hey, you know, Crowan and McIntyre, they are amazing players, but they can make mistakes too, and they can make those errors. We just need to capitalize against a team of such stature. And so lots of times it's just reinforcing our already solid mental state and going the extra mile, just saying, okay, these guys, we can beat them. They are beatable. They aren't indestructible. And that can really help make sure we approach the game with the best mindset possible.
I gotta say, man, I really like that response, and I already respected you guys as a team, and for you to have that mindset, because a lesser team would say, like, you know, this is Hold It Down, that, you know, their reputation and names kind of precede them, and so a lesser team wouldn't go into it feeling like victory was even possible. But for you guys to say like, these guys are notable names, but they're still human beings. We just need to find the mistakes and capitalize on them. I think that to me says the most about your potential as a team than anything we've seen before. So that's really cool, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say to your fans that will be cheering you on at the finals?
To the fans out there, first of all, thank you so much for following us in the first place. We really do appreciate it. We really do try to perform to a certain standard whenever we're playing in a tournament, whenever we're being streamed, especially in order to try and make sure we don't disappoint. But definitely just a shout out to the fans. Stuff might get possibly rocky with this new roster, but I have faith that we will continue and strive for a standard I believe we've set for so far, and hopefully that will just continue to grow and get higher and higher, as well as our team.
Cool, man. Those are all the questions that I have for you. Like I said, you guys have been the workhorses of the season, showing up and putting out a consistent effort throughout. I know Grizz is a very strong player, can only be an asset to the team, so I'm really excited to see this newest lineup for you guys, and I'm sure you guys will show up and really put yourself out there.
Thank you. I hope so too.
But yeah, during that clip, Vestige just talked about what it's been like bringing Grizz onto the team, getting into some of the the history and rapport that they have, and they don't seem to be too shaken up at all. They definitely had some positive returns having Grizz on the team, and they feel pretty confident about things.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that that synergy between Grizz and Heo has been helpful because they've already played up together on a team before, and so Heo is like a newer addition to that too. I think to that team too. I think that maybe like in the first week or even the right before this Tempo Series 2 is when Heo joined from Handshake. So maybe it's been like. Maybe that was helpful for them because they had time to acclimate to one person at a time, and it wasn't like a big shift.
That's genius. You lose one set of brothers, bring on another set of brothers. Because we all know Grizz and Heo, they're like two peas in a pod. They're like best friends,
Done.
Yeah. They're like they're the the front horse and the back horse at a Halloween party. You know what I mean? They're brothers. As close as you can get without actually being brothers. They're brothers. So hopefully that synergy really shows the power of our number one seed, because that's something a lot of teams are going to have to fear later on in the bracket, right?
Yeah. As far as what Bamboozle brings to the table, they do definitely bring some interesting comps. I think the meta, while it felt somewhat stale at the professional level, I think we've seen a lot of innovation and change. In HeroesHype Tempo Storm series specifically. So if there's a team that's going to break something out that the enemy will not expect, I definitely think it could be Bamboozled.
Sure.
I wonder if they're going to play Zool.
I mean, it's in the name.
Do you ban Zool against them?
Oh, no, I don't think you ever ban Zool.
Oh, I don't know,
Yep.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
I'd do it.
Moving over, though, we're going to have imported support going up against East Coast Revolvers. Now, that's going to be another very interesting matchup. Imported support is a team in a name that, they don't need any introduction. These guys have been around for a while. And they know how to play at a very high level. There's a few players on that team, FC Ignition, Draded made a play so big during this series of HeroesHype Tempo Storm that we pulled out. Like, I was like, we gotta get out a replay for this. Like, I had to go back and show the team fight and at the top lane and Tomb the Spider Queen, because it was just sensational play. They're a great team.
I mean, yeah, and they're another team that you never know what they're going to draft. Whether trolley. So if there was a team that was going to like pull out a Cho'Gall or something along those lines.
Is that Trolley though?
I mean, we're not Korea, so maybe.
I mean, I think that's more meta than what most people expect. You know,
Cho'Gall is meta. I can't. I look forward to the day when Cho'Gall.
we
is
live in
meta.
the
That'll be
darkest
interesting.
timeline. Okay, this is the darkest timeline of HOTS. Cho'Gall is meta. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
what's really like I said, the it can be stale, the overall meta in draft selections, but Cho'Gall is one of those diamonds in the rough. Well, I don't think it's so much a
Spicy.
secret now. Oh,
Big
it's
diamond.
very spicy.
It's not a secret anymore. Yeah.
If you draft a certain way where you don't bring enough stuns and lockdown the table, percentage based damage, you could find out. You can find out, and you definitely see Cho'Gall show up at the back end of the draft. If Ariel shows up, a new brat gets banned early on, you're just keep in mind because he can get there to you.
Yeah, if Imported honestly drafts like Ariel in the 1, 2, or 3, it's like, all right, we got to ban Cho'Gall. Like,
Right.
there's such a high chance it shows up. And I mean, I could go on more about Imported, but I feel like all of my opinions are a little bit biased. You know, I get a little bit more of the insider knowledge on them than most people, I guess. You know, just saying. You can assume why. Yeah, wink.
Wink.
But I'd say they're a pretty good team. I don't know if they're going to win the entire tournament. I don't even know if they're going to get past East Coast Revolvers. We don't know, right?
Who's to say?
It could happen. Let's just say I've seen Imported at their low point too. You know, so anything's possible at that. You know.
Well, I mean, they've had something of a renaissance coming out of Phase 1. Dradit was on LFM, and they got super close to breaking that line and getting into HGC. It didn't work out for them. That team ended up disbanding, and that's gonna have an emotional toll on anybody. But
it did
really
on me. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But I mean, there's something to be said for grit and persistence, and I think the members of Imported Support have embodied that in a lot of ways. So they definitely have something to prove, not only to the community, but I would say to themselves. They want to show up and have a strong performance, and they are a team capable of doing exactly that. East Coast Revolvers on the other end of this matchup. This is a team that's been around a while as well, specifically in HeroesHype Tempo Storm. They show up consistently each week. They put up a good performance. We haven't seen them make it to the finals, but they're always one of those teams that like
They're due for it, yeah.
you have to beat them, and that's something that I really respect about them. They have a strong roster. They have a fellow chairlead caster in their midst. So anytime I see him, I'm like, hey. Because that's where I started casting, so it feels good.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, it's one of those teams that you can really, if you go back and watch the first game that they ever did in one of these tournaments to now, it's night and day difference. You know, they are better at drafting. They're better at recognizing what other teams do. And, you know, even their play is better. The cohesion they have with each other is better. And so it's one of those teams that it's really nice to see when teams work hard and it pays off and it gets them in the finals.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out to one of their players. You know, I know that they had recently picked up Zero Max, and if anybody knows him, if anyone here frequents Reddit enough, you'll see that he is the guy who does the Healer's Handbook. All really good stuff. And by the way, he's not playing support for them, which is a little weird. You know, he's playing like tank and sometimes off tank for them. But it's like the dude literally writes something called the Healer's Handbook. I'm actually more surprised he didn't call it Zero to Healer, the Healer's Handbook. You know what I mean? Like,
Nice.
That's better,
yeah.
He wrote
If he changes it,
book.
he owes me. He owes me money.
There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
want percentage of that. Yeah. But I also heard that they're picking up another sub. I don't know if this has been proven true. This is just all speculation because I was watching a certain person stream earlier today by the name of Oddish, and she said that she might be filling in for somebody on East Coast Revolvers. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not.
You know, I did know that there was a team that needed a sub, so I think that probably is right.
Okay.
Which would be
I don't know-
interesting. That'd be
yeah.
a fun one to see, right?
I don't
Tonight,
know
Oddish.
who Oddish is filling in for, but that can definitely change a lot. Oddish has definitely proven to be a really strong player, a top performing player. You know, so if we see Oddish join East Coast Revolvers, is that the bump that they need to beat somebody like Imported? And I think Imported wouldn't expect something like this too, especially with the bracket change here. So maybe this is the perfect recipe, you know?
Absolutely. Like I love Steph. She's a strong player. She streams very often. One of the coolest streamers in the hero scene. But I know she's always had a very competitive mind and a sense of ambition for the game. She's had her sights set on making it to the pro scene pretty much as long as I've known her, and she has the skill and capability to do exactly that. So like you said, Aether, if there's one element that could potentially get a team like East Coast Revolvers over that proverbial hump to being a threat we start to see more at the later rounds of HeroesHype Tempo Storm series, a team that looks to make more waves in the amateur scene, it could be with an addition quite like that.
Yeah, those games could get a little odd.
Hey.
Ish. I don't know, whatever.
Moving over to the 2 seed and 7 seed of the bracket. No, man. It's perfect. We're going to have Flame is Lame take on 7th Empire. Now, for me, Flame is Lame, I think, has one of the most personal stories in the form of their founder and leader, Shot. Shot is a Heroes of the Dorm winner. He's been on pro teams in the past, and he's definitely had ups and downs as far as finding a team, finding a rhythm. It can be hard finding the right roster of 5 individuals to come together, get on the same page, play at a high level. And I actually had a chance to interview Shot. We do have a clip at the ready that we can go into in a little bit, but it was very personal. He really opened up, and one thing I really respect about Shot is that he always speaks his mind. I worked on Heroes of the Dorm with him this year, and we had a chance to sit down and talk about a wide range of topics. But I came to really respect him as a person. So anytime I see his team show up, it's always awesome.
And you also got to give a shout out to their biggest fan, right? Like
Mama Shot.
Mama Shot.
Oh, Mama Shot.
While I was at dorms, I actually got to have a long sit down chat with Mama Shot about a wide spectrum of things as well. And she is just a phenomenal person to talk to. Like, she's so much fun. So
it's so nice to see, like, to completely like a side thing, but like to see families that are like supportive of their kids in esports. It's so refreshing and nice to see, and just like that love. And like, she really, it's not just about Shot, right? She really is like the mom of Heroes of the Storm. It's Mama Shot. We all follow her. We love her. She watches all of our stuff, and like, she makes us feel so good. And it's like, she's the best mom that we could have. The mom of the storm, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, during Heroes of the Dorm, I got to meet Mama Shot as well, and I saw her, I ran over. I was like, I gotta get a picture with you. I was like, I know I've made it. I know I've made it when I got a picture with Mama Shot. It was like at the end of one of the days, I had like makeup on and stuff still, and I was just like, I just gotta get this picture. She's like,
what is it like, the makeup? Is it a lot? Is it like full stage makeup?
It. You know, I've never had makeup on before, so
sure, okay, yeah, okay.
So I have no direct comparison, but I can say it was a wild experience.
Wait, you didn't wear makeup during your modeling career?
What modeling career?
You don't have a modeling career?
Wait, yeah.
All right.
I was like, I'm in a boy band. I feel like I'm in a boy band right now. That's what it felt like. But on the other side of it, 7th Empire is another one of those teams that has been around in the HeroesHype Tempo Storm series a while. It's funny because every time we cast him, I'm like, all right, there's a guy on the team named Dreadnought, but that's not Wade Pinfold. It's not Tempo Storm caster.
That poor guy, literally, like, all the time, anybody sees him in Hero League, see him in Team League, see him in Quick Match, see him on Reddit, whatever. It's like, oh, Dreadnought, what's up? How are you and Gilly doing? Like, what's up, man? And it's like, it's not me. Like, I mean, there was like, I think there's actually one Reddit post where he was like the top comment, and it was just his story explaining how he swears on his entire life, like his family's life, that he had the name first, that he was the first Dreadnought, and that guy copied him, and that, you know, everyone should be calling him Dreadnought, like confusing him for like confusing Wade for him, not the other way around, because he had it first, you know. Poor guy.
There is one vowel different, so I guess
it's big. It's big.
It counts, yeah.
Huge.
But 7th Empire.
They fought their way in.
Yeah, they definitely battled their way in and earned their place here in the top 8. They show up consistently week in and week out. I'll put them at the same level of a team like East Coast Revolvers, where it's like you can't just walk over this team. It's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. If there was to be an upset, a team like Seventh Empire have the capability to do exactly that. And something that's really interesting, especially considering against who they're going up against to start here, Flame is Lame. You know, when they first showed up earlier in the series, like they won one of the weeks. But if you look at the stats and standings, they actually had a slide to where they continually fell to teams lower and lower in the rounds. So if there was a potential upset, I'm sure a lot of players or a lot of viewers look at the matchup and they're like, Flame is Lame are the favorites. But they've definitely had some struggles. Shot is still adjusting to the tank role. It's something that's proved to be a pretty big challenge for him as a player and as a person. So if there is an opportunity for an upset, I think it could be here. I have a clip here. Oh, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, and he does talk about that in the interview, his transition to tank and how it's, made the team better, made him a better player, but it's still a struggle for him. That's a big role swap in a lot of ways.
It's not easy. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I do have a clip here that I'm going to try to pull up because I'm good at this and I know what I'm doing. Let's see. All
Prayers for the internet.
It is. Oh, I know. I'm on a bed. All right, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. All right, I'm gonna pull this clip up. Meow. It seems like it's very much a personal journey for you specifically. You're leading this team. You're bringing your friends together. You're switching over to a role that is very foreign from what you've been used to in a competitive scene. And I think we've seen in a lot of ways like the ups and downs of that. Yeah. And I think you guys are coming out as a better team for it. But for you individually as a player, do you think this experience being on Flame is Lame has benefited you as both a player and a person?
As a person, I would say yes. As a player, I would also say yes. It's just a matter of, like, this is extremely hard for me. This has been the most stressful split of my entire career. And that includes all the professional teams that I've been on. Like, those weren't nearly as stressful. I don't know. I used to shock call for different teams, and that I could not deal with. I would get so stressed out that I would like beg somebody else to shock call because it would just stress me out to no end, and then I wouldn't perform properly. But tanking is like a whole nother thing. And I was shock calling and tanking when the team first formed. So I had to basically dust off the rust, which is a really bad way of saying not be rusty. Get rid of the rust on shot calling as well as learn a brand new role. And it's been such a struggle for me. Every single day, my team's like, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I know that now. Now I have to go back into my replays. And I spend at least 2 hours of replays every night trying to just look at my own individual skill. And my team's so supportive of me. I love it so much. Legend even sent me one of his one game that he thought Breeze from Fnatic played extremely well. And he said, just put your camera on locked and then watch what Breeze does and just think about what he's thinking the entire time. Because Breeze is a fantastic tank player. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I just aspire to be one of those better tanks. And for what you said, it's like a personal journey. I would also say just because of the tanking and like the shot calling and leading this team and blah, 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 like, yeah, that's a journey, but it's also kind of a last hurrah type of thing for me. I love competing, but I do know that my career has a time limit right now. I don't know 100% when I'll be done, but I really want to succeed and go out with a bang. So hopefully I'll be able to do that.
So that was a really cool bit of insight, I personally feel. And I think in a lot of ways, Flame is Lame and Shot in particular has the most riding on the success of this tournament. He says in the clip that, you know, this could be his last hurrah. He wants to go out with a bang. So I think in a lot of ways he feels like this team, Flame is Lame, is his best shot that he's ever had to make it into the HGC. So you definitely want to come away to victors here. You want to try to build some kind of momentum and say like, hey guys, we won Series 2. This can catapult us further into the open division to give us the confidence that we need. If they're able to win this out over a team like Imported Support or something like that, that would go a long way. But if they have a disappointing, like if they don't make it as far, if they don't hit all the check boxes that they want as a team, this could be the beginning of an end of a trajectory for a career that someone spends, like you said, a couple hours a night looking at replays, trying to improve as a player, trying to emulate Breeze from Fnatic. He puts a lot of time. He puts a lot of himself into this. So a lot's on the line for Shot. This is a big night for him.
Yeah, I love this interview specifically. I liked all the interviews that we did with all teams, but I love this one specifically. You know, he's got the green screen. He turned off the green. There's no special edit, right? we get real, right? He's like, no more facade, no more fakeness. I put on the COG jersey, right? It's my history, it's my past. You know, it's what I have to kind of remember, and it's kind of something that pushes me forward. And then he just kind of just looks and you feel, you know, a real moment with a player. You know, something that anybody who's tried to pursue the same aspects in anything, right? It doesn't have to be pro gaming. It doesn't have to be anything that involving gaming whatsoever. But that kind of feeling is something that we all kind of share at some moment or not, right? This like moving forward and wanting to really be the best that you can be and working as hard as you can and having a dream. And as much as I don't want to quote like Will Smith, although I do love quoting Will Smith, you know, when you have a dream, right, you got to protect it. You know, you got to work hard for it. And I love his story. I love Shot's story. It's kind of like this weird, I'm trying to think of the movie. This movie just came out recently. It's like, who's the actor? Keanu Reeves. I know you didn't expect that one, did you? Keanu Reeves. John Wick. Yeah, he's like John Wick, right?
Are you comparing him to
John
Wick?
That's right. I just did. We're doing it. Didn't expect that one, did you?
No.
Keeping it hype here. All right, John Wick, right? He's that guy who was always up there at that level. COG player, Imported Support, wherever it was, top 8, top player, right? He was in the conversation with almost anything that was going on in top NA play, right? He was always a part of that conversation, and then he kind of, you know, fell out, did his own thing, you know, kind of retired for a little bit, and then now, you know, he's getting back into it, right? You know, he's getting back in. He's a little rusty from where he was back then, right? He's a little bit older now, you know. He doesn't have the same like amazing, you know, aim and whatever. So all of his fights are all like, you know, like really rugged and it shows all the scars and whatnot.
Logan.
That's how Logan too.
Logan.
That's how I feel with Shot though. Like I follow this guy on Twitter. I love all of his stuff. I love keeping up with what he's doing because he has an amazing story, and I want to see this guy succeed. Like somebody that works as hard as this team, you want to see them, and sometimes it feels like this team has to succeed to show everybody else that hard work and determination means something.
And heart, you know, like
yeah.
Shot has a lot of heart. You can see in that interview how much he cares. He said it was the hardest split of his career, and you know, I can totally understand that. He clawed his way back. Being the leader of a team is no easy feat because when you're shot calling and you're the tank, like there's a lot of pressure that's on your shoulders. If you mess up, it's the first thing that happens. If you make the wrong call, it's all on you. Shot calling is like everyone who shot calls talks about how stressful shot calling is. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, but you see his dedication. He's watching replays of himself for 2 hours is huge. A lot of times you see that in the amateur scene is people, it's all that take it to the replays because they want to decide who messed up this, who did this wrong, who did that right. But that's not what it's about. It's about locking the camera on yourself and making yourself accountable for every misplay you do, every misclick you do, and improving yourself, because that's how the team gets better, when you take out that margin of error that you personally have, and then you can start working on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Shot. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe Shot. I think he's the embodiment of courage. Courage to me is like acting in spite of being fearful of something. And in that interview, I think we really learned about what it means to be courageous. Like he's like, I get scared to shot call. Like, he's like, please, someone do the shot calling for me. Like, he's going into a new role. He's been a ranged assassin pretty much his entire career, and now he's moving over to something that's the polar opposite, something that he said he feels is the most difficult role in Heroes of the Storm, to play a tank. And in spite of all these things, he's like, I'm still going to go out there, and I'm still going to do everything I can to try to win. I'm going to lead a team. He's going into a new role. He's leading a team. He's corralling an effort of 4 different individuals and his own.
Rudy.
Exactly.
Rudy.
I just root for the guy.
Yeah, me too.
I think he means a lot when it comes to being a competitor, to persisting, to trying to make a dream become real. So, like you said, man, Flame is Lame is a really easy team to root for, because he's doing it, man. He's really doing it. But the last matchup that we have will be 101st Northumberland Fusiliers going up against the New Guys. Now, what's really cool about this matchup to me, for those who don't know,
is their name?
No?
Okay.
Apparently, they came up with that name in part to troll me. Thanks a lot, Sliceblade, for that. Like, Sliceblade actually said in the Discord chat, like, week 1, he's like, you need to say the name, like, every time, because I was like, all right. You know. So, but one thing that's cool is 101st Northumberland Fusiliers are 4 members of 4 guys and a Legend, the winners of Series 1. They're the 4 guys. Legend left the team between Series 1 and 2 and actually joined Flame is Lame, which always makes for an interesting historical matchup, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
But they picked up Picante, one of the best players in the amateur scene, in my opinion. He's been #1 Grandmaster, one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet in the Heroes community. Got to hang out with him a bit at Heroes of the Dorm, and just a really talented player. And I think that they've shot up quite a bit as far as their overall lethality and potential as a team. And I think that this might be the strongest lineup that they've had yet. They're going to be going up against the New Guys, and this was actually the finals matchup last series. So there's definitely a lot on the line for both of these teams. The New Guys
coming out swinging that first match. Yeah.
The New Guys is a team that's, really talented themselves.
They're not that new anymore at this point, though.
I know. I like the
been
name
around for a while. Like, they're not that new anymore.
The name can only, it's only going to ride that note for so long. They're back here trying to get into the finals again. But the very first matchup is a rematch. Like,
that's tough.
It's just really cool. And one thing that I really like about this pre-show and about the effort that's gone into crafting the narrative of HeroesHype Temple Storm is that, it highlights things like this. In the past, when we would have previous series, teams just show up, they sign up, they play, the games are fun, some of them are casted. It's a good time. But HeroesHype, the staff behind HeroesHype, is really up the game exponentially in allowing these stories to shine. It brings a whole different level of involvement and investment for the viewers. You jump into the minds of these players, you see the history that these teams have playing against each other, and I think a rematch of the finalists from Series 1 is Exhibit A of like. This is appointment viewing for Heroes of the Storm action. I think it's incredible.
And I like how that you just glossed over the fact that the 4 guys in the Legend team have gone over. They've been known as like 17 different possible names, and then we're not even going to bring that up at all. I made the joke earlier. 4 guys in a salsa.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for 101st Northumberland Fusiliers. They've gone under a variety of names. They were previously Nice. They were Arc for a while. Two Arc. So if you heard those names in the past, making waves in the amateur scene, those are those guys. They also have gone under the name Donkeys Are Us. The recent Pro-Am tournament Bloodlust that's run by Arcane 8. They're one of the 2 teams that made it through the open qualifiers to take on HGC teams, which really speaks to their level of play and commitment to Heroes of the Storm. So they are no joke by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, right now, I mean, as much as people want to argue, like, oh, they might not be like the number one team, Hold It Down might be the number one, amateur team right now, but right now they're sitting number one. Like, they're number one in the standings right now. So this is potentially, the best amateur team that we have, So the new guys, I hope they're ready, because, this is not a team that you can sit there and be like, oh, it's just Donkeys R Us or whatever goofy names they come up with. They're just a bunch of pushovers. Oh, God, no.
Yeah, because
God, no.
Go ahead, man.
a lot of them have had synergy for a really, really long time. So it's really helpful
Years.
that they have that. Yeah, those guys have been together for a long time, and Picante brings a little bit of flair, a little bit of hype,
A little bit of
Spice?
yeah, a little spicy Picante, to that team. And I think that they needed that. I really think that has been such
They
a
didn't
big
need a
pickup
legend.
for
They
them.
needed spice.
Yeah, they needed
Poor
some
guys and
spice on the
spice.
legend.
It's really cool. We do have a clip from Sliceblade. We can jump into that. Let me pull up that right meow, because I'm good at this and I know what I'm doing. So feeling that way, that all right. This is about 3 minutes, so here we go. That they on paper are the favorite. Right before the finals goes on, it comes down to you and them. What do you say to your team to rally the proverbial troop to be like, we can still win this? Like, what do you say to your team?
I think everyone's like so dedicated, motivated. It's not a thing of motivation. It's more like, let's go over the list of stupid shit we've done to lose games we should win again, and and just check those off. Like, okay, there was a game, I can't remember what tournament it was, but it was against supported support, and like their opening draft was like Oriole, Anubarak, Greymane, and this is imported support, and then Herp Derp, we don't second ban Cho'Gall. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, right? Like, not only did we lose that game, I think, in an embarrassing fashion, we know better, and we deserve to lose that game in an embarrassing fashion for making a draft mistake like that. So, I got the little, list of shame, and just make sure we're not going to, we're going to be in a position to come out and play and not beat ourselves by doing something real dumb like that.
I think that's a very cool insight to have, because I was looking at the question more from playing to a certain level and trying to go above that. Whereas you guys are more like, your perspective is more, if we minimize our mistakes, we already feel confident enough in our level of play. It comes down to the team that makes the fewer mistakes. And I think that's a subtle but important distinction. Do you think that that's something that you guys have focused on over the past few weeks, like just to minimize the mistakes more so than increase the level of play?
Well, there's a word I like to use in practice, and that's poise. And that's the thing I'm always trying to instill. And actually the player who really epitomizes that more than I think anybody else maybe in the community is LZ Gamer, who has been through the gambit of esports already. I mean, the guy's already had a full esports career if you wanted to just hang up the gloves, but nothing phases him. He's sometimes we eat a bad loss, and he's references this StarCraft 2 game 6 years ago where he's watch this, I lost so bad they actually dumped Gatorade on me, and we're oh, okay, well, I guess that wasn't great, but it wasn't so bad. And just the level of poise that he brings in that I guess that's what we're trying to achieve. You look at when you get to the real top end of mechanical skill, I think it does a lot of the times come down to limiting mistakes more than the dramatic play. Usually the best dramatic plays are born of desperation when you're kind of screwed already. But our goal is to not be desperate and just play our game and limit the mistakes. If you're going to fall behind small. And then, if you fall behind huge, just throw it all to the wind and see what happens.
All right, we're back now. I think that was another really cool interview. You can head over to HeroesHype.com to see the full transcript, or head over to HeroesHype's YouTube channel to see the full video. I think it was really cool to get Sliceblade's insight. He talked about poise, and I think that's one of the best words you can possibly describe competitive Heroes of the Storm. responding well, keeping your composure under pressure is the difference between a good team and a great team. And I think if we're going to see any greatness out of the teams tonight, very well could and arguably should be 101st Northumberland Fusiliers. They have the tools, but they're also humble. One of the questions that I asked Sliceblade was, you guys are one of the favorite teams. You're one of the teams that made it into Bloodlust. You're rubbing elbows with the HGC teams and going toe to toe with them. How do you feel about your chances going into Crucible? How do you feel about playing at that level? And he said, honestly, I don't know if we're there yet. And I think it takes a lot to admit that, because if you can admit that about yourself and your team, you can then identify the reasons why you feel that way and plug those holes and come out of it a better team. And I think that speaks to their potential a lot.
Mm-hmm. And their drive, their determination, and like you said, like it takes a lot to admit that you have work to do, and if you are delusional about that, it's going to be really hard to reach where you need to reach, because you can't see it.
Yeah, I mean the first step to improving is to always admit that you have a problem, right? So it's good they do that. But I did like how he was like, I am going by Sliceblade now in your interview. No more Taliant, which other people may like. We're throwing around the name Sliceblade, and some people might be like, "Who's Sliceblade?" And that's Taliant, and that's a great guy. People should know him from Hero League. Should know him from any other previous team that he's been on. Really really strong player. And that whole team is definitely tons of experience on that team, not just in Heroes of the Storm, but in other games as well. LZ, yeah, just massive list of all these games he's been in and everything that he's done, and so many. He brought that up, the whole like you might take a loss here, but this guy's had a much worse loss than that, and I feel like that's kind of sad to bring up. Where it's like, you think that was a bad loss, guys? Like you don't know what it's like. I feel like that's really not the best thing to bring. But one thing I do want to talk about with all the interviews all together was, and if anybody here frequents the Tempo Storm website and sees the Heroes of the Storm section there, Kala made a kind of coaching post, and I think this is something that people really need to keep in mind is that all these teams that were top 4 teams, they have so many things in common, and it's not just hardworking, it's not just wanting to improve. One of the biggest things, and this is what Kala talked about, and he stressed in his interview on how to coach Tempo Storm, was facilitating a positive playing environment. And that's something that all these teams have also talked about here, where if somebody makes a mistake, you're right, like with Shot and doing the replays, he's not going back, and they're not going back and just sitting there and just grilling some guy for his mistakes, right? Everybody understands people are going to make mistakes, right? People mess up in the most stressful situations, and scrims are just scrims anyways. In tournament play is all about trying to get better. So it's great that we have teams that really show up and show to be like a top 4 standing team. And then what do they all have in common? These specific aspects. And I think honestly the biggest one, and I encourage anybody who wants to be a coach or wants to be an analyst or wants to be a manager, that facilitating a positive playing environment is one of the biggest things you can do to make a team better. And I know that sounds weird. People don't really expect that, like, oh, everybody's friends with each other. You don't have to be friends with each other, but just being able to play with one another in a positive way is such a big deal for amateur teams in general.
And that's great insight coming from someone that has a lot of coaching experience in Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, I flamed everybody on my team. I didn't even do that. So don't do as I say, not as I do.
That's fair. That's fair too. But it really is strong advice. I think in a lot of ways when it comes to playing at the amateur level with aspirations towards playing pro, dress for the job you want. Like behave and act like a professional now. So then you're prepared to be at that level, you're playing at that level, and then it's not so much about luck, it's just about preparation and seizing whatever opportunities come along to you. But overall, I think these interviews, getting to know these teams, these players individually ahead of the finals, really speaks to the human element of HeroesHype Tempo Storm series, and in a lot of ways of the amateur scene at large. Like I've said a few times, like this is not, you see 10 players play Heroes of the Storm, it's like, yeah, that's cool, but there's an actual story. There are personal arcs that go into this, There's camaraderie that's formed, teams form, rosters change, people overcome fears. You grow as a player, going through the amateur scene, and we're seeing that live, and I just thank the players. I think that's incredible.
They're players like you, players like me. I mean, not me because I'm bad, but like players like a lot of people that you gotta. I mean, it's the dream to a lot of people to do esports, and even if you never make it all the way, the amateur scene is a lot of fun. Being able to play every week with a group of people that you get along with and have a good time and get better yourself and with other people, like it's fun to do. It doesn't have to always be, for the dollars and for the glory. Sometimes it can just be for fun. And that's something to remember too, that all these teams really enjoy it. They wouldn't be here if they didn't.
All right, do we want to make any predictions on who's going to take the entire thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, Halorin, are you allowed to say anything? Because I feel like you're going to have bias, right? Because you're casting, and then you're going to be sitting there subconsciously, right, saying like when a team that you want to win plays well, and then when you know what I mean? Like, is that allowed? Are you allowed to say anything? I don't know.
I do my best to be objective.
Cast your bias, man. That's a thing.
I honestly think there's an argument to be reasonably made for all 8 of these teams. I honestly couldn't say.
Okay.
I know Flame is Lame is favored. I know Imported Support is favored, and you think about the reasons why they are. It's hard to disagree. But if these interviews have taught us anything, it's just like you can't discount who just shows up and plays their hearts out.
Oh yeah, it's every day is a new day. Who shows up today is the one that's going to win it, right?
So
Yeah.
I think we've seen instances of that in HGC. We've seen instances of that here at HeroesHype Tempo Storm series. So I genuinely, Aether, could not say.
Okay. What about maybe Buzz? You got a prediction you want to throw out?
I think I'm gonna go with Flame is Lame. I think that when they're on, and they have the heart and they have the spirit, and I believe in that. So we're gonna go with that team.
How about you, Aether?
Okay. Well, when I sit down and I look at all the teams that I've coached, and then I look at this bracket, I'm gonna have to say Imported Support, hands down. Imported Support.
Oh wow.
He actually just.
I don't even know where we're playing the tournament, honestly. All right, I'm back.
Perhaps a smidgen of bias.
A little bit.
Perhaps. But I think
A little bit.
speculation is going to be short-lived because it's now 9:01, so we can actually look to get the old festivities started here. Any closing thoughts, Mae, Aether?
No, just thanks for having me and you coming on the show and doing all this with us. It was a great time talking about all the teams and looking forward to watching all the games.
Me too. Yeah, I'm looking for no matter what happens, just give me exciting games. Throw something crazy at us. Like, give us something fresh. Give us that spice that all the teams need. But yeah, that's what I want.
Nice. For me, as far as closing thoughts, I know that we're gonna get some exciting games. I would just say to both the players and the viewers, enjoy this experience.
Get hype.
Get hype. Feel inspired. These are human beings just like us that have put a lot of time to sharpen their craft and to play this game at a high level. They all deserve respect for that and to be rooted for. So if anything, just celebrate that we have such a vibrant scene and that we have something like HeroesHype Tempo Storm series to allow those individual and team efforts to shine. It's amazing. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the pre-show as much as we have putting it together. I think these teams have given us a lot to talk about, but the time for talk is over. The finals are about to begin. We're going to jump into things, and this is it. For now, my name's Halorin. It's been my pleasure to talk about these teams and the finals with Aether, Maybe Buzz. You can find them at Landon D. Baker and Maybe Buzz on Twitter, respectively. And I'm going to contact the community coach, the Fox of Hots, get everything lined up. Yeah. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with the finals. See you then.